What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Casual Sports Fans. We know it's been a long time. We've had our stuff going on, but here we are. We're back. We're going to be doing our sports and reviews since we've been gone. We'll talk maybe a little bit about the NFL draft, but we're mostly going to be focused on the MLB season and the NBA playoffs. As always, I'm Ben Gutowski, accompanied here by Evan Berger and Andrew Bartle. And without further ado, roll the intro. Alright, so we have a new setup today. We're inside. We're all fully vaccinated, so it's super exciting to be back in the wonderful Bartle household, not having to worry about masks and such things like that. But let's get right into it. I want to talk about the NBA, because my Bucks are up 3-0 against Miami Heat, who beat us in a pretty heartbreaking way last year. So let's start with that series. Andrew and Evan, do we think that the Bucks have a chance to go to the NBA Finals?
No. The Nets. That's it.
I mean, yeah, it's easier said than done to say the Nets will for sure do it. I think obviously the Nets have to be the favorites the way they've been playing in their series and just having Harden, Kyrie, and KD, one of the biggest, probably, big threes we've ever seen. So I would say the Nets are favorite, but the way the Bucks are playing, I think they have a bigger chance we did think coming in because Bud somehow is coaching the playoffs. Don't really know how. Maybe just Jimmy Butler, Bam, Tyler Hero being horrible, but I think we'll have to see how they do against a team that's performing.
I think what's super awesome about this Bucks playoff run is you're seeing the true impact that Jrue Holiday is having and how much better he is making the Bucks by just not being Eric Bledsoe. His defensive prowess is so sensational. He had 3 steals in game 1. That game was awesome. And then in game 2, he had 4 steals. He had 20 points. They blow him out. He didn't play great in game 3, or maybe it was the other way around. He didn't play great in game 2. Or he played great in game 3 and didn't play great in game 2. But his defensive impact is so huge to see, and he's locking down whoever he wants to as long as there's not some tremendous size advantage, which is awesome. And the Bucks are playing such great defense. Giannis, with the exception of at the end of game 1, has played really, really well. Chris Middleton had a huge shot at the end of game 1. And the Bucks are really starting to hit on all cylinders in a way that, and I've watched a lot of the Bucks, I have not really seen them do that much this year. So it's super exciting to see. Obviously, the Nets have to be the favorite with Kevin Durant, and we all know how I feel about him, and James Harden, and Kyrie, and those guys. But, the Nets didn't dominate in the regular season. I get they weren't really all on the floor at the same time, but we haven't seen this trio really mesh together and straight up blow people out in the way that everyone's been expecting yet. Obviously, if you ask me who I think is going to come out of the East, I would pick the Nets. I don't think Philly really has enough to get it done. I think their regular season was more of a mirage than anything. But the Bucks are looking really good right now. And it's really exciting for a lot of people who hate the Nets, and especially me because I'm a Bucks fan.
We can all agree that Game 2 of the Bucks Heat series is probably one of the most entertaining games to watch this whole year. I mean, you would watch the Bucks.
If you're a Bucks fan.
I mean,
in general.
In
general. I mean, I'm not a Bucks or a Heat fan, and I remember watching the game. The Bucks would run up the court, shoot a 3, and the net wouldn't move. Then the Heat would come down the court, be grinding out the shot clock, trying their best to battle in the paint, and then they'd put up a terrible shot. Sometimes it'd go in, sometimes it didn't. Bucks sprint down the court, shoot up another 3, perfect. And then they did that for about 20 minutes of the game. The Bucks were up by 26 points in the first quarter. It was
awesome.
It was a lot of fun to watch, just as an NBA fan.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
I just think in general throughout the series, I agree with Ben. The X factor has been Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton because down the stretch, Giannis is a great player, but he's not been the guy throughout his career. Give him the ball, 5 seconds left, he's going to hit the shot. Chris Middleton's been that guy, but now not only do you have Chris Middleton, you have Jrue Holiday to also be that guy, so I think that's a major difference there.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Jrue and Chris have been our closers. Dante DiVincenzo just did get announced that he will be missing the rest of the playoffs, which sucks. He's Pat Connaughton, just a little bit better and a little bit younger. And I mean, I'm sure that the Bucks will be fine as long as those 3 guys and Brook Lopez, who has had a great series, can stay healthy. But let's move on down the East. Obviously, we kind of know what's going to happen in that Celtics series. Neither of those games have been tremendously entertaining. But let's talk about the Knicks and the Hawks. This series really, really is exciting me, especially because like it's so cool to see the Knicks being good at basketball again. Like the laughingstock of the league for the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years that make the playoffs once in a millennia, it seems, are really playing good basketball. Like, is that crazy to say? Like, Julius Randle is kind of emerging as a top 10 player in the league. Like, what is going on in New York, and who do you guys think is going to win this series?
Well, here's what you can attribute it to. Any of y'all seen Soul by Pixar?
Oh yeah, they jinxed it.
No, here's the deal. That Soul, number 22, said that they were messing with the Knicks for years and years and years, and all of a sudden, that Soul, number 22, goes to Earth. Now there's no one to mess with the Knicks, and now all of a sudden they've made the playoffs. So,
might be something there.
listen, I'm not saying that Pixar is the reason the Knicks are in the playoffs and winning a series, but I'm not saying it's not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think, obviously more has to go to Julius Randle than it would to Pixar, but you could argue either way. But one main thing in the series is, so far in the series, Julius Randle hasn't been performing to his level. Like, if you look in Game 1, I think he scored sub 15 points, didn't look like himself. So we'll have to see if Julius Randle can step up to this big series, to playing in front of away fans coming in Atlanta, to see if he can step up. But one player, so happy he's playing great, is Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose has been hooping. And another thing with Derrick...
Rose had a great game, too.
Rose had a great game, too. He's been playing great in general. And he's not even a player that gets a lot of fouls. He puts himself in a position where he gets contact. He's not getting those calls. So he's been playing great, scoring a lot of points. And obviously, on the other hand, Trae Young, he's been playing the bad guy in New York. Everyone hates him, so... Gotta see how it plays out going to Atlanta.
That it is really cool, but one thing that's kind of like scary about the Knicks, if you look at it right now, is that they're getting it done by committee. Like Julius Randle, I think he scored 15 in Game 2. I think didn't he have 20 in Game 1?
Julius Randle did not have a good Game 1, but some other guys stepped up. Like
that one random guard. What's his name? Burks. Didn't he have like 30?
Alec Burks hit some pretty big mid-range shots.
It was but they're getting it done by committee. RJ Barrett is emerging as a pretty solid player. Who else is playing well? Obi Toppin, with the minutes he gets, is playing good basketball. Like, he had 8 points in 8 minutes the last game, or 10 minutes or something. Alfred Payton sucks, but they're scoring in a variety of ways with a variety of different players, and they can get it done at all three levels, which is really encouraging to see. I'm rooting for the Knicks in this series. It's just cool to see New York being like good at basketball again. But Trae Young really has been sensational, even though he plays the game in a very annoying way, to say the least. He's shooting like 30 free throws a night, slowing everything down, but he did have that huge shot at the end of Game 1, which was awesome to see. Who do you guys think is going to win this series, though?
Knicks.
A lot of people aren't going to like this. I'm going to take the Hawks. I love how Trae Young is embracing like the bad guy mentality. We haven't seen that in this league in a long time. And they took one game in a very tough Madison Square Garden crowd. It wasn't full, seemed like it was. So I think Julius Randle's really going to have to show out to get it done, and committee is only going to work for so long. I just think the Hawks have a bit more with Clint Capella, John Collins. I just think they have a bit more than the Knicks do. And it's going to be, I think 7-game series. It's going to be close. I'm going to take the Hawks.
Momentum. Madison Square Garden. I'm not sure if the Hawks really have the prowess to win there anymore, though. I mean, the pure energy from that stadium is absolutely ridiculous, and I'm just not sure if...
But the thing is, Atlanta doesn't have to win in MSG for the rest of the series. Oh. They don't have to win in MSG for the rest of the series, and they could still win the series. I'm rooting for the Knicks. I really am. But I think Atlanta did what they needed to do in New York. It came down to the last shot. Trae Young had 35. So it's really just going to come down to these next 2 games, 2 in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 in Atlanta.
If New York wins one of these 2, I think New York wins the series. If they don't, then I think Atlanta will probably win in less than 7, which would really suck, because it's every game that's played throughout this series is going to be really competitive. But if Atlanta takes both of these next 2 in Atlanta, I think that they'll win in 6. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I hope the Knicks can pull it out. But let's keep moving along the Eastern Conference line. And let's talk about the Wizards and the Sixers.
Sixers, yeah.
Obviously, Philly is a much better team, but I think Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal will win 1 or 2 games in this series. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but I have a good feeling that it is going to happen. They won't win the series, but I know that they can win at least 1 game. But I think the Sixers will probably win in 5 or 6. It just really does suck to see Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal and these 2 incredible competitors who have been playing so well together recently come to another halting stop in the playoffs, which is damaging for Russell Westbrook's legacy. Bradley Beal doesn't really have a legacy yet, but how do you guys think this is going to impact Russell Westbrook in the long haul?
He's just going to find a new place and get a cheap ring at some point. That's all it's going to mean. Like, he's going to get a ring at some point. Even if it's later in his career, he'll go somewhere, get his ring. It's not going to be that big of a deal.
I mean, I think we're really in the Russell Westbrook cycle. It's a cycle of he starts the season bad. Oh, is Russell Westbrook good? Is Russell Westbrook bad? He heats it up before the All-Star game. Another rough stretch, and then going to the playoffs, he plays really strong. But as we have seen in these last 2 games, he's going to give you 29-8, 22, 10-10. But he's shooting it at like 40%, 35%. And in the playoffs, that
shooting percentage for the playoffs is not terrible, though. Like,
I mean,
guys
if you look
are,
at his shooting splits
lighting it up in the playoffs, quote unquote, right now. Like, Giannis is shooting like 40%. Like, Chris Middleton has been like lighting it up, quote unquote. He's shooting like 45%. Like, shooting percentages do drop in the playoffs, but like if he wants to win a playoff series, he does need to up that shooting percentage. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's not just upping the shooting percentage. I just think in the series, for them to take a game or 2, I think they'll maybe take 1 game. I don't see a series going past 5, but to take that 1 game, I think he's going to have to let Bradley Beal take a bit more of the head because the inefficiency with Russ. I know everyone's going to be mad at this, but I just don't think Russ is the most efficient player in the playoffs, and I don't think him being the leader of your team is going to get it done in the playoffs. I just don't think it will. It's hard to say. Like, maybe with the right team constructed around him, but he's had great teams constructed around him.
I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with what both of you said. Because Russell Westbrook is, like, the ultimate competitor. And personally, like, I have zero doubt Russell Westbrook can be the best, if not tied for the best player on a championship caliber team. But the question is, when has he played with a championship caliber team around him? In Houston, I'm not going to lie. It's a joke. It was a joke. James Harden is just historically terrible in the playoffs. By like declining value, he'll still score 20 points, but like he completely goes away. He scores 40 every day in the regular season, and then he can't do it in the playoffs. So Houston, I'm not going to attribute that to anything. Obviously, in Oklahoma City, he's still young, but I think it's just a matter of him finding the right team. And I would say, because of how soft and ugly the NBA is now, that he would go get a cheap ring. But this is Russell Westbrook. Like, this isn't Kevin Durant or James Harden or Kyrie Irving or like even LeBron to like a certain degree. Like, this guy is in the same kind of caliber of like grind it out and compete as Damian Lillard is, and yet he doesn't really get treated like it. So it sucks because I am an avid Russell Westbrook fan. I like him a lot, but I think Philly is going to win the series pretty handedly. And unless, where is he playing? Washington makes some great changes this offseason. I don't really see him winning much in the future either. But let's move out west now. We'll talk about LeBron and the Lakers against the Suns first. I think the series is going to be a gentleman's sweep, to be totally honest with you. Like, the Lakers are just playing better every single game, and I don't know.
So they played better and still lost, and you're still saying
they're playing.
There's one reason they're playing
game
better.
by game.
There's only one reason they're playing better.
They did not play well against the
Listen, the Suns are going to take one more game, but then the Lakers will win the rest of it.
I think the Lakers win.
I think there's one key X factor, and it's all about Chris Paul. After his shoulder injury, he hasn't been the same. Cameron Payne has been outscoring him. Cameron Payne's been outplaying him. And you could see even in layup lines, Chris Paul is not the Chris Paul you're looking for, and he's been sitting out in late games. So I think a lot of it comes down to, can Chris Paul be that guy? Because Chris Paul has brought the Suns team into a fringe playoff team, into the 2 seed. And also another thing is, it's also how Anthony Davis plays.
Question though, when has Chris Paul gotten it done in the playoffs? Like, Chris Paul,
I mean, if you say putting
years
around,
and they never got to the conference finals. So
if you're saying putting them in the right team, I don't think it's a Chris Paul issue. Also, another thing is, DeAndre Ayton's played very, very well this series, in Game 1 locking AD up. So if DeAndre Ayton can keep his game at this level, keep his defensive game at this level, and AD gets shut down, and if LeBron has to do it himself, I just think the Suns, I'm not saying they're winning a series, I'm saying this is going to go to 6 or 7. I'm taking the Lakers in 6. But I could see the Suns taking in 7.
I'd be tempted to agree with you, except for the fact that AD has gone for 35 in both games 2 and 3 of this series. So I'd attribute it more to it being a fluke, bad game by AD more than anything else. And like you see it building with the Lakers every single game. They did not play well against Golden State. Like, make no mistake, Draymond Green is a defensive nightmare for anyone he matches up against. And it came down to LeBron being the best player on the planet and making a crazy 30-foot shot to win that game. Then they lose game 1 against a far superior team to the Golden State Warriors. And even that game was pretty competitive, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Kind of competitive. It was, Suns outplayed them, but it was a close game.
It was 99-90. It was a poor offensive game for the Lakers. And then they come out and win by 10 in game 2. And then they come out and win by 15 in game 3. So all signs are pointing in the right direction for the Los Angeles Lakers right now. They're playing better each and every single game. And for some reason, people always forget this. LeBron is the best playoff player on the planet. I don't understand how people manage to forget this every single year.
Why are we still debating about a series that we know the Lakers are going to win? Why are we still talking about this?
I wouldn't guarantee it. I mean,
I am guaranteed.
You guys are guaranteed.
I'm guaranteed right now. You are instigating right now.
I don't care. I'm just making sure that everyone knows LeBron is the best playoff player on planet.
But why are we still talking about a series that we all agree on the outcome of?
Because Evan thinks they're going to win.
I don't think... I say Lakers in 6, but I think you're counting out the Suns too early. Because this is a good Suns team. Like, you guys are forgetting. We haven't even talked about Devin Booker. Devin Booker is a great, great player.
This Suns team is the Bucks team of 2 years ago.
So I disagree. The Bucks are subpar teams.
I'm saying the Bucks 2 years ago in the playoffs were not the best team in the playoffs. Like, they weren't even the best team in their own conference. And the reason for that is, like, I love Devin Booker. Is Devin Booker a top 10 player in the league? No. No, he's not. I love Chris Paul. Is Chris Paul a top 10 player in the league? No.
When healthy, he has been a top 15, top 20 player in the league.
A top 15, top 20 player.
Impact-wise.
Is he the best player on that team?
Is he the best player on the Suns team? Is he the best player
on that team?
I mean, if healthy, and if you're talking impact, I mean, you can always say a player is better.
Is he the best player on the team, yes or no?
At the moment, when he's injured, he is not. Healthy.
Overall, is he the best player?
A healthy Chris Paul is the best player on that Suns team.
Okay.
I'm saying that right there.
I rest my case. The Lakers are going to win this series in 5. Phoenix had a great regular season. It's cool to see, just like the Knicks, but I think it's more of a fluke, to be totally honest with you. But, whatever. Move down the ladder, or move up the ladder. Let's talk about what's the 1-8.
It's Grizzlies Jazz.
Grizzlies Jazz, which has been awesome so far. Ja Morant is playing like a freak of nature. What happened to the Jazz in Game 1? That was the one game.
Donovan Mitchell didn't play, but it was pretty much Ja Morant was great. Dylan Brooks had an insane game. Dylan Brooks,
I did hear about that.
He's probably the X factor. Can he play great defense on Donovan Mitchell, and can he put up a scoring game? I mean, obviously he can put up 20 on any given night, but I don't know if he will on every given night. But I think it's mostly defensively versus Donovan Mitchell. Can Dylan Brooks get it done? But obviously, Ja's my guy. Ja's a stud. Before the series, I was having arguments with people who's better, RJ Barrett or Ja Morant. That's an obvious answer. Ja Morant is way better. I think he's
the wrong people, man.
I mean, I am arguing with the wrong people, but I do think Ja is a future superstar. We're not going into that there, but there was a lot of Ja disrespect before the series that I've seen go away because they were just straight up wrong.
Putting this in perspective of how I feel, and I know I'm backtracking a little bit here. I would give the Grizzlies a better chance to win this series than I would give the Suns to beat the Lakers. And here's why. They have a superstar player who is playing like a superstar player to every caliber of the word. But I don't think they will, and I think the Jazz will also make this a quicker series than a lot of people think it is going to be because they did not have their best player, who I believe is the best player in this series, and they lost by, 4, 5? He plays, they win by 10. His first game back. So I think him being back is huge. Maybe Memphis can win one more game in Memphis, but I think the Jazz are going to take care of this pretty easily, if I'm being honest.
You know what we should move on to?
Oh, yeah. Andrew's
you already know. The Mavericks Clippers. The collapse of Kawhi Leonard in LA as Luka Doncic establishes himself as a superstar in the league.
Been established, but
I know.
Well, you were arguing with me who was better. I think it wasn't the Russ and Luka argument.
this was last.
Okay, I was still right.
Okay, but also
This time last year, Russ Westbrook.
No, he was not.
I mean,
there.
Luka
No, he
hasn't
was
won a
not.
playoff series. The Mavs need to prove that they can be a suitable place for Luka long term, that they can build around him. If they can take a playoff series, maybe even 2, especially against teams that are probably better than them, it encourages free agent markets. Maybe they go pick up Bradley Beal from the Wizards, as we were talking about. But the point is, Kawhi Leonard is going to leave the Clippers. What if he teams up with like Russell Westbrook or something? That'd be interesting. Luka Doncic is amazing, and that's all I have to say about it. And it's so fun to watch him. He's just fun to watch. He's also fun to play with in 2K. Very fun because he just makes every shot. It's so funny.
Luka is a certified superstar at this point. I think he's a top 5 player in the league at this point.
Thank you.
Finally.
But the one thing that's like super resounding to me about this series is like Kawhi and Paul George have both played pretty well, and they just have zero help. The highest total of points scored has been Kawhi. He scored 46 in Game 2. Paul George had 28 in Game 2. The next highest scorer had 11 points.
I could score 11 points.
Then the 4th highest scorer had 6 points. And there were 2 of them, and then everybody else had less. So, I think you're looking at this, and it's just like, wow. Kawhi comes to LA. He makes a commercial mocking LeBron. He blows a 3-1 lead to Denver, and now he's here down 2-0. And I'm loving the hate that he's getting. Because Kawhi beat the Bucks when they were up 2-0. So, I'm saying, like, this isn't a safe, done deal for the Mavericks. I really am pulling for them and hope to see them win. But we have seen Kawhi do crazier things, and I think that Bucks team was probably a little better than this Mavs team. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, the team around him is different, too. Like, that was a much deeper Raptors team, and they didn't have a second star.
I agree.
They're very different teams coming
Kawhi was a man on a mission in 2018, and you can still see that he's playing phenomenal basketball, but the team is just worse. And if he does leave LA, that would be pretty awesome as long as he doesn't go to Brooklyn or LA or Milwaukee or some other loaded team. But it is awesome to see Luka playing the way he is, and I think the Mavericks will probably win this series in 6 games.
Yeah, yes, I don't have too much to say about Luka. I think, obviously, he's great. I've been on the Luka hype train for a while. He's a certified superstar. I agree with probably around top 5. I don't agree with slandering Kawhi. Kawhi's been playing great. Like you said, he put up 46. He's scoring. He's playing defense. It just, he can't do it all.
Everyone hates him.
I mean, I'm fine if you hate him.
I agree with
I don't.
We can't say this is Kawhi's fault. He scored 68 points.
I mean, I just think it's the Clippers front office fault for trading a first-round pick for Luke Kennard. And if you're going to trade him, he's got to be your third option. He hasn't been. You have Pat Bev. You've had Rondo. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. Pretty much you have 2 top guys and a bunch of guys that should be good that just can't perform. I mean, that's all it really goes to. I have, like, Mavs in 5 or 6.
All right, let's talk about another series here. Blazers-Nuggets. Both games have been decided by more than 20 points, but the series is tied 1-1. So, I'm getting the feeling that this series is going to be a lot like, and I'm not saying it's going to be like as good, but because it's like the first round of playoffs. But this series is really making it reminiscent of that 2016 Cavs-Warriors finals. Every game in that series sucked and was decided by 20-plus points until Game 7, which is arguably the best basketball game of the last 30 years, 30-plus
maybe
years.
Ever?
Yeah. Like, it's like Jordan Game 6 against Utah, the second time around. This game, like, you could put that game ahead. Like, it's one of the greatest basketball games ever, and I think it is going to become, like, that kind of series. I bet you, like, the Nuggets will win by 20 again, and then the Blazers will win by 15. And then come Game 7, it is going to be Damian Lillard and Nikola Jokic. As weird as that sounds to say. And it's going to be who wants it more. That is going to be really, really awesome. I think Dame will win this series because Dame is, like... I think Dame is my, like... second or third favorite player in the league outside of the Bucks. I think the Blazers will win in 7.
I mean, for right now, it's really tough to say. I know you've brought up that, both games are 20-point games. Both games were in between 10-point games with like 5 minutes, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was a close game. You can look at the box score at the end and be like, it's a 20-point game. It didn't feel like that. And I think the main reason for that, for the reason the Nuggets won that game was obviously Jokic put up a 30-point game. He's dishing out assists. But another guy that we have to talk about is Austin Rivers. Because Austin Rivers, at some points this year, was sitting on his couch watching the games. He was not on any single team, and down the stretch, he hit 3 after 3 after 3. If you weren't watching a game or you're just announcing, you would think it'd be, this is Damian Lillard hitting all these shots. No, it's Austin Rivers. So, the pieces around Jokic are kind of getting it done. Not having Jamal Murray actually hurts. I'm taking the Nuggets in 7, maybe just because I like Jokic, but I think it's going to be a really great series. I'd argue it's going to be better than the Hawks Knicks, but it could go either way. Both are going to be great. I'm taking the Nuggets in 7, though.
I'd be tempted to agree that, like, the game feels closer than it was, but, like, Game 3, the Nuggets really never led by less than 10. And where's Game 2? Game 2 might have been different. I'll check right now. Game 2, the Blazers led by 8+ from the third quarter on. It's just like both these teams can beat each other on any given night, and I think that's what makes it so exciting. But I respect either pick here. You can't really go wrong.
Nuggets in 6. It's not going to be as interesting as we think it might be, sadly. I know that's not interesting.
All right, so we talked for way longer than we thought we would, so we're just going to make this an NBA playoffs episode. We're going to record an MLB update episode right after this, so make sure you watch that because it'll be posted at the same time. Thank you so much for watching. We're inside now, but keep it up with COVID stuff. Let's stay safe. Let's stay healthy. Check up on your neighbors. Be kind to people. This has been Evan Manger from Casual Sports Fans. Sign off. Let's roll the intro.
Can you check that